What is going on, guys? So if you can't tell from a couple of the videos I've released recently, I've been on a found footage kick, and specifically this one found footage director, Isaac Rodriguez, who a lot of people were talking about online. The first two films I watched from him, I really enjoyed. He made a film called Mr. Creep, and he made a film called Deadware. I reviewed both of those films. Really enjoyed elements of both of them. They're a little rough around the edges because they're lower budget, but I think for what found footage is trying to accomplish, he does a good job avoiding those tropes, creating great atmosphere. And so he had another film on Tubi that I decided to check out because a lot of times when I get hooked on a director, I'll just want to watch a lot of their films, and if they're readily available, I'll check out as many as I can. And so this is another one of his found footage films. This one I believe came out before the other two that I watched, and so I jumped in this one really hopeful and excited, just like the rest of his films. And the movie I'm going to be talking about today is Last Radio Call. Last Radio Call is directed by Isaac Rodriguez. On June 30th, 2018, Officer David Serling went missing inside an undisclosed abandoned hospital. Using his recovered body cam footage, his wife attempts to piece together what happened to him on that horrible night. So like I said, I've really been enjoying watching Isaac's films because I'm a found footage nut. I really enjoy found footage movies, and when they're executed well, I really enjoy them. In the past two films I'd watched, I'd really enjoyed, and I will say this is definitely the weakest of the three of his films that I've watched. I did not enjoy this one as much as I did the first two because I feel like this one falls into a lot more of the found footage tropes that exist, where you're just kind of asking yourself, why is this happening? Why is this going on? And also for its pacing, it's got more of an uncomfortable pacing, where I feel like this one was about an hour and 15 minutes, which is one of his longest films. And although the filmmaking style looks really nice, it's shot really well for a found footage film, it feels like it overstays its welcome a little bit too long. But as the plot description says, we see police cam footage at the beginning of the film. These two guys going through this abandoned hospital. One of the cops gets like pulled away. You hear like some screaming or some shuffling. The other cop who we're following goes into this room, and the camera cuts to black, and we're told that he disappeared. So then we're introduced to his wife, who the actress that plays the wife has been in a couple of Isaac's other films, and he's trying to investigate her husband's disappearance. And the film is her with this camera crew trying to figure out why her husband disappeared by interviewing his partner, who was pulled away at the beginning of the film, who actually made it out and survived that night, talking to people surrounding the case, someone who called a 911 call in about the place in particular. And so we're getting all these little bits of information through the wife's lens. And what I do like about this film, just like all of Isaac's other movies, is the atmosphere that's built. The atmosphere in this is really great. The problem, as I said at the beginning, the pacing kind of takes you out of the atmosphere a little bit because of just some scenes that feel like they're thrown in to pad on the runtime. If this was a little bit more condensed and in the way that his other two films are, where I feel like they get to the point better, they spend a lot less time with needless exposition. It introduces a really interesting story about what is going on in the hospital that I really liked. I liked the lore of the story, and I thought that that was really cool. There were a couple moments that genuinely unsettled me and made me uncomfortable. There were also a couple of like cheapo, in-your-face jump scares that I feel like found footage is known for, and this one kind of leaned into those a little bit more heavy than Mr. Creep and Deadware, where I really liked the way that those films build up. Even in Deadware, when there was a couple of jump scares, I was okay with it because of the tense atmosphere that was built up throughout that, through just the minimal sound. And this one definitely falls into those tropes a little bit more. I did like the incorporation of different characters in this. This one felt like it had a little bit larger of a cast than the other movies that he had made beforehand, and it is really unsettling. I love movies that take place in like weird old abandoned hospitals. For instance, like a film like Session 9 that I really love a lot, which isn't necessarily found footage but takes place in an old abandoned hospital, or the Grave Encounter series, which is also a series that I really enjoy despite its faults. I think that there's some really cool things about that series that work really well for me. But yeah, I love movies that take place in those type of environments, and I think like in this specific case, you're having this wife who, I think the whole idea is like seeing her kind of lose herself and get into this a bit much, where she's willing to literally do anything to figure out what happened to her husband, but the performance doesn't necessarily accompany that feeling enough to where at the end, when she's like running through the hospital trying to figure out where her husband has gone and try to solve this thing, there's not enough of that unhinged, I've lost my mind attitude for you to kind of attach yourself onto it. And I didn't care as much about the characters in this as I did the other two films, which the thing I liked about the other two films is some of the wild reveals and some of the crazy sequences that happen in those. And this just had a couple of more just like formulaic moments that didn't necessarily work as well for me. But I don't think this is bad. I don't think it's great, but I also think that it's like showing Isaac's progression as a filmmaker, and that like for someone who has a minimal budget, who clearly likes making found footage films, there's a way to approach it, and I think he has a passion for it, and I think that he does try his best to convey these in the best way possible. This one just didn't work for me as much as the other films in his catalog. So have you seen Last Radio Call? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought it was not as good as his other films. There are moments that stick out to me that I really appreciated, but I definitely think it's the weakest of the three of his films that I've watched. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.